Hey, everybody. So, if you're watching right now, you've heard the sad news that this will be the last regular live stream of Horror Movie Night. I know I got you scared a little bit. We're not going away. Horror Movie Night's not going away. We're just not going to be doing the weekly live streams anymore. And it will shock absolutely no one that Brian is no longer here. Because he's always not here. But there's one man who's always here. Scott!
I love I love the fact that you're like, this is our last live stream. Like fucking Tom messages me and he goes, hey, so why? And I'm like, that's just being fucking dramatic. This is like that time that you decided that you wanted to share your bracelet, but it's just because you're getting your wisdom teeth.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reality is this. I don't remember that ever happening. The reality is this. So, I want to make it clear that this is not like a, hey, we're not doing the live stream anymore because the pandemic is over. Because, side note, pandemic's not over. But what's happening is, things are opening up whether we like it or not, which means that our homeboy Brian needs to pay bills somehow, which means that he's traveling a lot more to shoot video content. And Scott has a whole business adventure going on his side. If you've listened to the show, you might know that I have quite a few podcasts on the side. So, like, there's just a lot of things going on outside of just Horror Movie Night where, like, at first it was like, it's just an hour on a Tuesday night. But, like, there's been so many times where I'm, like, in the middle of editing and I'm like, oh, fuck, I've got to go and deal with this live stream. Not that I don't love seeing you guys, but, like, it is intrusive when you're, like, in the middle of a really good edit session. So, Brian's not here, which is as per normal. But I thought what would be really fun is, Scott, you and I are the OGs. We've been holding this shit down for
560 episodes. Well, not 260, but we've recorded something like 260.
Yeah. Now. So I thought we'd scroll through our archives.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about, like, certain ones that jump out at us as classics. So, I mean,
I'm starting from episode 1 because that would be what I would want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to scroll through as we go through. We don't have to talk about all 200.
No, I don't want to talk about every of them. Trust me, I don't want to talk about all of them. But, like, I need to say that Dr. Giggles was...
Well, that was the game changer.
I'm so pissed that that's episode 4.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. Dr. Giggles was such a game changer for us. And, like, the behind the scenes on the making of Horror Movie Night, and I'm sure some of you know the full story, some of you know bits and pieces of the story, but Scott and I met through Reddit Horror Club, and then that's where we also met Adam at the time, and we were trying to get rid of Reddit Horror Club and do our own thing. And when we were starting the show, first thing that was going on was that we were starting the show still running Reddit Horror Club. So, like, simultaneously, we would have people from Reddit Horror Club picking movies for us to watch, and then we would pick movies in between. Like, Scott picked Waxwork, I picked Dr. Giggles, so on and so forth. But also, Geekscape was like, we'll take Horror Movie Night. Like, we'll take Horror Movie Night as a show, which was really, really exciting. And they had just signed a contract with SoundCloud. So we were getting a free pro account on SoundCloud. And when our Dr. Giggles episode dropped, SoundCloud picked our show as, like, their highlighted podcast that week. And we went from, like, the first 3 episodes had, like, maybe 100 to 200 listeners. And then Dr. Giggles had, like, 7,000. Like, it was something unreal how many listeners there were for Dr. Giggles. And I 100%, like, I think that a lot of the success that Horror Movie Night has found is that Scott and I are hustlers, and we, like, hit cons, we shake people's hands, we, like, try to meet everybody. But that Dr. Giggles episode was a huge factor in us being able to do any of that.
Yeah, yeah, and it also kind of set the stage for what works for us. You
Yeah,
know,
because
like
like
the Dr. Giggles.
Videodrome
It's
didn't
a
work for us.
Videodrome is a great movie. Videodrome is such a good movie, but that's why, you know.
Yeah.
Well, here's the question though. The last thing about Dr. Giggles I want to ask is, did we record that episode when you and I were hanging out for the first time
No,
in
no.
Philly? That was when I first watched it, though.
That was when you. So what happened was we were still doing Reddit Horror Club, but we knew that we were going to become Horror Movie Night. We had like a
So
logo
that was
set up.
like what, April? That was April when we
Yeah, that was
watched that together, and then
it was April or May.
June.
We did a bunch of live panels at an anime
That was
con.
April. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I still
then
have the
Tenoshi Con.
yeah, I have the
But
little like we were guests rather.
but we did the one slash wonders. It was podcast. It was horror movies that never had a sequel, but could have gotten one. And you thought it was insane that I said Dr. Giggles, and I was like, "Yo, motherfucker! Tonight we're watching Dr. Giggles." And I think we were like 20 minutes into it when like we locked eyes and we're like, "We have to do this as one of the early horror movie night podcasts."
Yeah,
because we just knew that it was
right.
That was my pick, yeah, because I think we knew at the time what was working for Reddit Horror Club. It fit all the things that we needed for Reddit Horror Club. And thank you so much, Chris. Feel free to check out our website. Our boy Stephen Bay, he's been kind of in hiding, dealing with the struggles that everyone who's trying to get married in 2020 is going through. Yeah. But he did an amazing job on this website.
And shout out to Analog Jones and the Temple of Film. That's his podcast. Well, they're less of a podcast and more of
a way
YouTube.
Of life.
Analog, yeah. Sometimes Steven will message me on Facebook just out of the blue. No reason, just be like, you know what I miss? I miss going to estate sales and finding VHS tapes. I'm like, yeah, dude. Same.
I don't know if he's watching, but if he's watching, Steven, I swear I will one day remember to send you your leather daddy that has been or wait, what is that called? I don't think it's called a leather daddy. I think I said that wrong. It's like a bag that keeps all like your travel stuff in it.
It's
like maybe. I don't know. He left it
kit, but you called it a leather daddy, and that
I called it a leather daddy. But he left it in our hotel room in San Diego and like didn't realize it until he was on the plane. And I've had it since July of last year. So I really should probably send it back to him soon. I kept thinking like, oh, I'll see him next year at Comic-Con. Like I just kept thinking that there'd be another time. I was almost going to go to Chicago on so many occasions, but I'm certainly not going anytime soon. Is there anything worth talking about that we see in this screen right now?
Let me get back to it. I was trying to find the Arrested Development Leather Daddy screenshot to send you, but I want to say one thing about Piranha 3D because that one recently was in the remake list, and that made it to the top 10 or. Was that? Did it?
It made it into top 10. Piranha 3D is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, but I remember Adam making a joke about a man in a canoe, and I was like, I don't get it. And he was like, he just lost it because it was a clit joke. And I was like, I mean, I've just never heard it. Odd Thomas, which we were talking about,
that's ghost sex.
Jennifer's Body, still, I wish that it wasn't episode 11 because it's so fucking good. I would love to revisit that, but can't. Life Force, we got to talk at length about how wonderful. The leading lady's name is escaping me. Mathilda May. About how beautiful she was and how she was only on screen for 7 minutes. But the greatest disappointment of the first 20 episodes, in my opinion, is the fact that Trick or Treat 1986 was not with your brother Brian, because man,
he's devastated by that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And this is really the end of the first year. We only got 24 episodes in.
But also Tusk. That was a Reddit Horror Club pick.
That was canon.
That made me very upset. Yeah, fucking canon. I love him, but man, I hate Tusk so much.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, if you look at those first 24 movies, it is all over the place. But we got so many heavy hitters, like ones that are still classic HMN titles to me, like Spookies and Slumber Party Massacre 2. And like, it blows my mind that Silent Night, Deadly Night 5 was that early. I felt like that was a later addition for us.
It hasn't been long enough, dude. I can't.
Still
I just
love it.
can't. That was your pick. By the way, everybody, that was Matt's pick.
I feel like that's
now we get into year 2. Well, it's not still technically year 1.
yeah, but the next year, the new year had come and gone, and we jumped
we just
into
talked about Vamp during the From Dusk Till Dawn episode. Really, I had forgotten that it was that early on. That it was still, and that explains why on that episode I'm like, was Vamp Horror Movie Night or was it Reddit Horror Club?
Yeah,
Night? It was actually Reddit Horror Club, but it's because it was the first. It was like episode 26. It was so early on.
Well, this is where at this point we had officially cut loose from Reddit Horror Club. And what we started doing at this point was, I believe it was every other pick one of us picked. And then it was a listener could email us, because Monster High was definitely a listener submitted pick for sure.
Did we have a guest on that episode? Was it Burger?
I don't think we had a guest. I think we just suffered. Oh wait, let me check. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check the description on that one, because
okay. And while you do that, I'm going to respond to a couple things in the live comments that we haven't said anything about. But mostly Tom being crazy. But the best part is that Tom said that he's heard so many of these episodes so many times, because I think that there are about 5 people that are pretty strong contenders in the Facebook group that have probably listened to the episodes more than I have, and I lived them, which is very funny to me, because I'm like, there are about 5 that I can go back and be like, I absolutely remember how awesome they were. I want to release them. Kindred is probably number 1, just because that's such a fun. The funny story about Kindred we'll get to when we get to that episode, but most of them
for me,
I can remember loving re-listening to them.
It's the best ofs that I go back to all the time. I always revisit the best ofs, but
this year's best of, when we get to that, we got to talk about it.
But then we got
Tourist Trap. Oh, did I pick Tourist Trap?
No. So Tourist Trap. Let me see who the guest was. I think Burger picked Tourist Trap.
Okay. But that would not have been my first time watching it. Yeah. I don't think.
Yeah, we are joined by Brian Berger of Jennifer Help Us fame. And I feel like that may have been the first time you were watching it, or we watched it once for Reddit Horror Club, and then Berger was like, "Can I talk about it?"
We watched it for Reddit Horror Club, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is top 20 favorite 80s, or well, 79." But
and guys who are listening, here's something that I'm going to throw out there for you guys to help us out. Because obviously Scott and I, like, these are all the benefit of having one of the more sober podcasts in the world is that we have very, very strong memories of everything that happened. So while we're scrolling, if you see a title that you're like, hey, I'd love to know more about like what happened in that, like, why did you pick this episode or whatever, please throw them out there. So
we got another 200 to get to through. Dude, I want to mention one thing before you get into Evil Speak.
Because that was Esteban. That introduced Esteban.
Yeah. But the thing about that I want to mention before we talk really about Evil Speak is that remember that I made that spreadsheet of all episodes with suggestions of where to find it and all that. I actually went through and I completed it about a week ago, but I didn't post on the group just because life got in the way. I've updated that and I will repost it on the group. And it's got hyperlinks to every single episode page that we're going to be looking at. So if there's anything that anybody, people like Tom obviously have listened to them all, but people that are newer or people that have maybe listened once and want to like revisit from that, I will be posting that Google Doc link again. And it is an open doc, and I think it actually has some spoilers for the next couple weeks of what we're going to be discussing, and I'm fine with that. I thought that it would kind of be like a nice little Easter egg for people. So, but yeah, that's coming tonight. It's all done. I just forgot to post it. That's all.
Cool,
So
cool,
Evil
cool.
Speak.
Evil Speak introduced us yelling Esteban, which I think carried for like 10 episodes at least.
I would really wish that we would have gotten more legs out of that, because some more mileage rather. Was just because we could have made a t-shirt of it, but this was also before we were really doing t-shirts. Maybe we revisit that. I don't know. I don't know if and this is a little bit of the wizard behind the curtain, people that are listening. Like, Adam was really fun, but also a lot of work for Matt and I. And so, and that's why, I mean, like, he had stuff he was working on with himself, and that's why we had to part ways with him. I mean, that we worked very hard with him through the first, what, 130 episodes or something, man?
120 episodes we did.
Yeah,
Which
but
means that Brian's been on the show longer than Adam.
I was actually going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Was when we hit that, because I was thinking about that this morning in the shower. But anyway, I think about Matt and Brian. I think about the Kelly boys when I'm in the shower a lot. But anyway, so as far as like the way that the trajectory of the show worked was that, you know, with Adam, we were kind of like doing triage on a lot of episodes. And so I wonder if we can go back. I'd have to like go back and revisit some of those episodes to see if I want those episodes to be kind of like back in the spotlight. Like Evil Speak, like I would love to have an Esteban shirt, because I feel like that would be a real fun in joke, but I don't know if that in joke really would work with who we are.
And that's why I was talking about, like, maybe, as you know, we've been crushing pre-recording our content lately, which is like great. It's, you know, if you're going to make the pandemic work for you in one way, it's getting a lot of work done early. But I think one of the things that we can maybe look into is you and I kind of going through and picking like we can't get crazy. We can't. It's got to be like 10 to 15 movies that's like we would love to revisit these movies with Brian, and maybe do those as like bonus features. Like, we won't make them actual episodes that week, like a bonus feature.
Yeah, Trick or Treat.
He's been begging for it.
Yeah.
But Tourist Trap, I think,
the cocaine oh shit! What was that movie? He was like, that movie hit me so good. Oh, Black Roses. If you know, we've talked about Trick or Treat 1986 so many times because of how much Brian loved Black Roses.
Oh, thanks. See, Tom's into it. But yeah, the Tourist Trap has definitely one of my favorite riffs, which was us going on and on about your heart will burst with fear.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
good, so stupid, but so good.
I'm trying to see. Let's see. Oh, the brain and ticks. What a shit show right here in the center, though.
Wait, you're so so Blood Diner was awesome. The Brain was so fucking funny because we were talking about the car chases. I remember that. I still, you know, all these years later, I still apologize for St. Francisville. But then Ticks was so fucking good. Stage Fright was Hello Mary Lou was so fucking good. Death Becomes was so fucking good. Meg was on that episode of Horror Movie Night. And then Munchies. Thanks, Matt. Do we have a guest for that episode?
No, Munchies was the listener submitted. Munchies was the listener submitted. So here's the funny thing about this is guys who are watching and listening to us right now as we're doing this broadcast. We've got one more. We're going to finish the Stephen King poll.
Mm-hmm.
There's only like 3 of you guys watching right now, so I'm going to spoil this. But we usually end up with like 200 people watching at the end. But so we're going to do best part 3s in horror. As
this is a surprise to me. I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah. As the poll after.
You know what's going to win already.
Well, don't worry. We're going to do that as our poll for after the Stephen King. But then is like this crazy idea that I've had that's been brewing in my brain.
I love this idea.
We're going to do each collection of 50 movies we've talked about and rank them. So I've already built out the lists in the Word doc that I use to run those polls. And I'm pretty sure when the first 50 comes, St. Francisville is getting my vote for worst of the first 50.
Dude, Christopher, I really wish that Hell on Earth would take it because Stevie Cenobite. That's all there is to it. Yeah! That's why I love you, Tom.
Look, low key, I'm trying.
Hey, look, she exists.
Oh, Death becomes her guest herself. Oh,
oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
hey. Oh, they're adorable.
Yes, I'll take someone with that. Thank you very much. Anyway, yes, I hope that. I really hope that. Well, so in your list, how many part 3s do you have?
I have to go through, and I always try to make
15?
I always try to make it a divisible by 5 number. So I have to look at the list. I have to look at the list that I've concocted and see where it lands, and then make some decisions on what to cut. But honestly, looking at the list, I'm like, this is kind of anybody's game right now, except for the obvious one.
The number one, everybody knows what the number one is going to be, but I'm gonna.
Hey, you never know.
To not be.
I'm pushing hard for The Shining to not win the Stephen King adaptation. I'm saving.
Dude, it doesn't even count. It doesn't even fucking count. Oh, we'll get there.
So here's.
All right, so dude, I gotta say, of these, my 2 faves have got to be TCM2 and Dolls, because Dolls was one that pushed forward. I picked two, and you picked Dolls.
Yeah, I pushed real hard for Dolls. This is the point where we started doing. So I think around here we changed it up, where it was each one of us would pick one movie, and then we would have a listener submit it to break up the month somewhere in the middle. Because I'm pretty sure.
Willard,
so I picked Forbidden Zone. I think Frankenhooker was a listener submitted, and then you picked TCM2 because you intended to make fun of it and then fell in love with it.
Yeah, it was because of my second watch, and it's so much better when you watch it. And
Adam picked Willard. Willard is one of the 2 lost episodes. That and Primal.
Oh, is that a lost episode?
Yeah.
Well, then that means there are 3 lost episodes.
Oh, right? Yeah. Oh, wait. Willard might still exist. Primal and the original Blood Rage are the ones that are.
Blood Rage. But I know that Adam asked for Primal to be taken down, right?
Yeah. He asked for both of those to be taken down. Those were taken down by Adam's request. But then Sleepaway Camp, man. Sleepaway Camp, when we dropped episode 50, and it's so funny because we were so young.
Live stream?
We didn't do a live stream. We didn't have the technology for a live stream. What we did was a live tweet for the entire day.
Right.
So we had a movie marathon set up, and we would just post all right, at this time, start this movie. And we would all be watching and live tweeting together about it. And I remember that with that Sleepaway Camp, and I give all the credit to this live tweet because that was at the point when Twitter was at its peak of popularity. Mm-hmm. And we had people using the same hashtag, which was that if they were tweeting, they had to @ horror movie night and they had to hashtag HMN party. And the night that the Sleepaway Camp episode dropped, when we woke up the next morning, it was at 750 listens already. It was massive, and we were like, it has.
I remember you messaging us and being like, "What the fuck just happened?"
But that was what I mean. I think that for us, and this is, I'm not saying this to brag about us. I'm saying this to kind of inspire other people out there. Put in a hustle. We were 3 nobodies with a horror podcast that was barely a year old. And we were like, I don't know, let's see if we can make something trend on Twitter. And even though we didn't successfully have the number 1 trending thing on Twitter, we caught enough eyes that we gained new listeners. Be fucking creative. And to follow it up with Dolls was
Dolls is so good. Dude, I could watch Dolls any day. I've watched Dolls at least 2 or 3 times since you introduced it to me for episode 51, and it's just so good. And then we got basically a bunch of bullshit. I mean, I enjoy Drag Me to Hell, but not really for the show. Ghoulies 2 was my pick, right?
I think so.
Pretty sure Ghoulies 2 is my pick. And then I remember the great discussion we had about horror posters and what would happen if Megan left me for Evil Ed. But that's those movies are all pretty painful. I wouldn't really rewatch them. I mean, Ghoulies 2 maybe.
Terrorvision might have the best riff in horror movie night podcast.
Talking about that whole thing. yeah.
Punk. But yeah, this is a
Matt, and
pretty.
You got to interview what's her face
Yes, I'm blanking on her name because I'm terrible at names. Which
from the John Cusack masterpiece,
Better Off Dead. But then not perfect, but there's a nice mixed bag here of like Texas Chainsaw or Toxic Avenger, which I still stand by is such a fun movie. Probably has, I would say, top 5 Adam moments where he gives us the play-by-play of the montage. He's like, he's like, okay, so there's kids sitting in the street. Toxie pulls him out of the street. Girl can't open a can. Toxie shows up, opens the can. Now it's popping popcorn. For some reason, he's got a police cone on his head, and he's taking it off and doing a ta-da thing. Now he's yelling at the sun.
Well, that's his second best. His number 1 best riff ever was on Houseu, but
yeah, but that was that was a retro episode. We never.
We can revisit Houseu then.
Yeah, technically, if we're revisiting retro episodes that happened in Reddit Horror Club, then Alligator's up for grabs. But I don't think we'll ever do better than that first.
No, I think
you can't capture that magic again.
Yeah, but Alligator is one that I would fight hard against doing a second time, strictly not because I don't want to rewatch it, but strictly due to the fact that it was such a good episode.
Just love it so much.
I have to agree with Tom. Terror Tunes is my all-time least favorite horror movie night pick. That was a Matt pick.
Nope.
Even Scott.
It was a listener submitted, but I was the one that was like, guys, we're gonna have a blast. We're gonna have a blast with this.
Dude, Motel Hell, we're going to redo Motel Hell one of these days. We are going to. It's a rough movie, but I think that Brian could bring some fire.
I've been intentionally putting off rewatching it because I know that it's like
don't rewatch it until we're going to do it.
It's happening this year. I know when you're going to pick it. No,
2020 or 2021?
2020.
Oh, really? You or me? I'm not picking it again. I'm not picking it again.
Listen, I remember a certain someone saying, "Hey, I've got an idea. All my Thanksgiving picks are going to be cannibal movies, and we're going to start with Motel Hell."
Right. It says on my Trello, "Cannibal whoopsies," because it's all accidental cannibalism. But we got to talk about
whoopsies.
How do you haven't seen that?
No, that's so funny.
No, Tom, don't pick it for listener submitted month. I think we have enough good stuff for listener submitted month.
Yeah, we're getting there, dude. There's like 2 or 3 that just came in the last like week or 2 where I was like, I read it and was like, ooh, like I got all excited. I haven't added them to the list yet, but
Tom's not wrong. Actually, that is my favorite genre.
So the most controversial episode we ever did.
Deathgasm. Are you done with Deathgasm?
Yeah.
Deathgasm. Well, the thing about Deathgasm is that like, I was younger, but it also is episode 69. Nice. So I'm glad that I did that right.
Nice.
I hope that Rain drops in because that's basically the joke with her is like if she sees something that's the number 69. Also my pick, as far as I can tell, episode 269. Me. Nice. But anyway, so Deathgasm, I stand by how much I hate that movie and how much I think that it was basically it's
overrated. I think it's a very overrated movie. I didn't hate it as much as you.
A much better movie, or better.
Evil.
Let's hear it on the replay, dude. I watch that movie every New Year's Eve.
So then we get Prison, which I think was the first time most of us ever saw that movie, and that movie was fucking fantastic.
I could rewatch Prison just because of the guy in barbed wire scene. Yeah, that part is just so sick.
That barbed wire scene's great. We watched Student Bodies, which we had way more fun with than I thought we were going to.
Yeah, and that was your pick, right?
Yeah, it was like a dumb comedy. Then we had Ralph from the Gore Horsemen join us for this obscure-ass Last Slumber Party movie.
So good. That movie was so fun to watch and discuss with Ralph. But then one of my favorite...
The best Christmas movie we've ever done.
Yeah, it's the best I have to rewatch it. There are actually 4 Christmas movies that I watch every year, horror movies. And it's usually when I'm wrapping Christmas presents. Obviously, Black Christmas, 1974. No question. Elves, which is a slog every year, but also gotta. Then I watch Gremlins. I always end with Silent Night, Deadly Night, the first one.
All right.
Just how it has to happen.
And New Year's Evil, really the only. Well, no, actually, I won't say that. I'll keep my mouth shut for a second. But then,
fuck you for Suburban Commando.
I still stand by having a good time with Suburban Commando. But once you get past that, you've got The Deadly Spawn, which was such a fun movie. From Beyond, Blast, and so Hell Comes to Frogtown, I think, is the episode that introduced what became a trope that continues in every horror movie night episode since, which is me having a pre-written joke and saying the punchline and then laughing over the top at myself, because that was the one when so Adam was doing the setup about how Roddy Piper was about to get raped by a frog, and I said, "Yeah, it's one horny toad," and then started laughing at myself. And that's something that still happens in every episode. But then,
I hate to break to you, man, I'm pretty sure that happened before episode 79.
No, but that was the first time where I was like, I had the joke written on the piece of paper ready to go and was just waiting for a setup. I was like, all right, someone's going to set this up and I'm going to boom, spike it back down. When we all discovered how much we truly loved Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
And then I made Megan. Oh, have I ever told you about the time that Megan got a little high and wanted to watch NOS 2 with me because I explained to her there was the gay Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yes, you talked about that on
That was
the
like
air.
the last time she was high, actually.
And then you hated Body Melt. I still stand by it.
Fuck Body Melt. Fuck Body Melt. The stuff's so good. Frightener's so good. Project Metal Beast, I will rewatch. I don't think we had a really good episode about it, but like
no, but that
movie.
That will fall into another category of controversial episodes, because that's the episode where we called Kane Hodder fat, and the world let us know that they did not agree with our assessment.
Oh man, I'm so glad that's before we started going to cons, because we've seen Kane Hodder at so many cons since then. But yeah, like I picked Rawhead Rex because it was a St. Patty's Day pick. And that movie sucks so much ass. But then we get Ice Cream Man with your now beef fry, Chris.
So hold on a second. So I want to I would be remiss if I didn't mention that our guest for the Lawnmower Man, Jesse Cornett, who did like the spooky stories, the Tell in the Dark.
Oh podcast, yeah,
and we just kept Chilling Tales for Dark Nights was the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
We kept just calling him the man with the golden voice because he just had that perfect radio voice, and we felt so amateur. No, he wouldn't swear, and he had like a nice professional microphone set up when we were still just talking into headphone mics and stuff, so we sounded like trash. I'm so glad we got to Ice Cream Man though, because I bought the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray of Ice Cream Man recently, and I listened to the commentary track, and I'll tell you something that is really, really weird to me. The director of Ice Cream Man keeps referring to it as a children's movie and like talking about how they like had to cut some of the gore scenes so that it would get a PG-13 rating. And I think that he doesn't realize what movie he's watching, because it's definitely still an R-rated movie.
You telling me that Ice Cream Man was PG-13 is blowing my fucking mind
right now. I don't think it was. I think he thought that he made a PG-13 movie and no one had the heart to tell him. But
I don't think that any 13-year-old is going to be like cool with someone getting a what was that thing that the lady ate a thing of ice cream and then Ice Cream Man or something, and he put it down her throat and it like chopped up her insides. Like that's not.
I think no, that's still Dr. Giggles.
Oh, that's Dr. Giggles. I get those two mixed up all the time.
Ice Cream Man is where he's like pulling out the insides of someone in the ice cream truck and pulls out their diaphragm, which was like a weird moment.
Oh yeah. And Chris was like, I remember that was the first time I like spoke with Chris, and I was like, man, guy from Punchline.
It was a big get for us.
World.
Yeah. Curse 2, The Bite, which I mean, I would put that pretty high up on like Matt Kelly picks that I didn't expect to be as good as they ended up being. Our first ever live episode, the Jason Takes Manhattan Part 8.
Not our best, but
no. That was
fun.
With our boy Johnny Neutrino came out and joined us though, so that was a good time. And now we're rolling into some These are some classics.
A
to
lot
me.
of shit that I picked.
Yeah, Critters 2, solid
The
time.
only time we got to do an Easter episode, because there's only one Easter horror movie, and it's Critters 2.
The Blob, which was a blast. Stay Alive, which we were joined by my friend Liz Finnegan.
She couldn't
Terrible
save
movie.
it, though.
Terrible movie, great guest. The Freddy's Dead Final Nightmare live episode, which was also a pretty decent time. But then Scott, who fucking introduced me to for whatever reason when I was a kid,
You never saw it?
No, I saw it, but I didn't like it. And then you like reintroduced it to my life, and I was like, holy shit, Return of the Living Dead 3 is a good movie.
Yeah, I absolutely love that film.
And then I returned the favor with Invisible Maniac.
Invisible Maniac, which I have not revisited, but I need to, because that movie is just...
I think that's a revisit with Brian one for sure.
Oh, that's on my top 5 with Brian, because I feel like Brian needs to watch it with Jade and be uncomfortable, because that's what that movie is about.
Howling 2 introduced a shirt, probably our worst selling shirt, but
sadly, but like that was a Stephen Bay design shirt, and I loved that episode. I've re-listened to it. I think it's a great episode for the time, it's our first 100 episodes.
And that was Brian Berger joined us again for that, because he's the one that actually coined the weird howling joke.
Weird howling, yeah.
I know Brian's bummed every day that he wasn't around for us to do American Werewolf in Paris because of how much he loved that movie, but I don't love it enough to want to do it again.
Yeah.
This is where things start to like become, hey, we need to figure out a new plan era of the podcast. So Video Dead, I think someone had recommended a different movie. I'm trying to remember if they recommended Video Dead.
No, they recommended Video Dead.
But I'm trying to remember if they actually got to be on it, or we did it without them, and then we had to make it up to them by having them on a different show.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah. Pretty sure.
I'm trying to remember who that was. But so there was Video Dead, then Sleepaway Camp 2, which again, fucking like one of the better sequels in my opinion. I love Sleepaway Camp 2. And then Monster Squad. I mean,
and that episode was when I did my Haunted Woods cover. I for episode 100, I did the spooky acoustic Haunted Woods cover of Rocket to You Drop by Michael
something with an S.
Sembello. And that almost made it into the Wolfman's Got Nards doc, but then they couldn't find the rights.
So that episode is how we even got connected with those dudes, because we had just dropped episode 100 and I was at the Philly Comic-Con and they were signing unexpectedly there. So I walked up to them and handed them a business card and said, hey, we just covered Monster Squad as our 100th episode. Could we do an interview? And I did like a quick interview at their table, and I sent them the link to both the interview and episode 100. And they listened to episode 100 and heard your cover. And then when I was at the table, this was maybe like a week or two before Comic-Con, I was like, hey, I've got a booth at Comic-Con. Would you guys want to sign? And they were like, sure. And they gave me the contact information for their agent. And I got that to Jonathan, and we got that whole situation hooked up. And that's how we all became better friends. But yeah, that was wild. That was like the beginning of me really feeling like Horror Movie Night was allowing for some of the coolest experiences that I could ever.
Yeah, I think that has to be when it really was like Matt Kelly getting to fulfill
like 5 to 10 year old. Yeah. Like, I know what you did last summer. I actually watched with Brian because he was home for the holiday. We were doing, because that was right around 4th of July. He was like up that was the summer.
4th of July one that I picked that one.
Yeah. And then Hollow Man.
That was an Adam pick.
Trevor and Juliet was all me. You picked Stung,
Tromeo.
And Stung was just you and I remember that much because I felt like it was one of the few episodes where it's like, I really wish that we had a third person here who was like, I think
funnier than us because we're too serious.
Well, I think we needed someone who really hated the movie, and we both like really liked it. So it was just kind of, we weren't good at just giving praise while being funny yet. So it's just like, yeah, no, the practical effects are really good. All right, so what have you been watching?
As much as I wouldn't revisit the Stung episode personally myself.
No, I've still got that DVD somewhere, but now we're starting to get into this. This is when I
fall.
This was late fall, so we did Basket Case 2, which I still stand by as a delightful sequel.
It's a great number two. Yeah.
The Outing, also
I
known as
love that
Lamp.
movie, but not a good episode, I don't think.
No. Arcade, with the first appearance of Brian, who just got just trampled by 3 talkative guests or talkative hosts. Shocker, which is mixed bag. Granny.
The best thing about Shocker is the song, but the best thing about the Granny is the fact that I picked it and I was able to actually find it.
Yeah, you found like that.
It was so hard to find.
Street Trash, which I will still stand by, is fun, but it is a disturbing movie. I
fucking hate Street Trash.
Detention.
So, dude, that was 2 weeks of me absolutely hating HMN. Street Trash and Detention back to back, and Detention was a listener submitted, I believe.
I think so, but I think I rode for it. I was like, yeah, let's do Detention.
You were like, it's fun, and it's fucking not fun. But then I picked Scarecrows because it was October.
I thought I picked Scarecrow.
No, I picked Scarecrows.
Oh, well then, Adam definitely picked Bordello of Blood. I think you picked Scarecrow. I think I picked Scarecrows because I think you used your pick for Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, because it was so close to Halloween.
Nope, I sure didn't.
Let me check a look.
That was our guest. That was our guest. That was our Halloween episode. Was Halloween 3?
No, our Halloween episode was Little Monsters.
No, I'm saying it was right before the Halloween episode of Little Monsters, because usually what happens is if Halloween comes between an episode.
There it is. So this is why I was confused. I'm reading the description. Scott has been chomping at the bit to pick this one since the summer, and Matt also picked it as well. Almost picked it as well. So it was basically we both were like battling for who was going to pick Scarecrows, and you got it before me.
Yeah. Good. All right, gotcha.
Oh, then maybe I picked Bordello of Blood. I picked Bordello of Blood. I wanted us to watch Bordello of Blood because I'm an asshole.
Yeah, because you want to watch Tales from the... You picked all the Tales from the Crypt movies.
No. Demon Knight was a listener submitted one.
Okay.
Just rewatched Prince of Darkness recently, and that's still a very underappreciated Carpenter movie.
Still for me, my least favorite. Well, not my least favorite, but I don't love it. But then we get...
This is where things
work out.
This is where things get crazy. I had a blast with Incredible Melting Man because it's such an insane movie. We had the Death by Potatoes that was Pet Sematary 2. We had Killer Workout, and I'm pretty sure that's the last Adam episode because no, Puppet Master 2 is the last one because then we dove in to Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and then Miss December and Black Christmas were back to back. I mean, Miss December is a fun movie. It's
a fun movie, but it was not a very good episode.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't something for us to talk about. But then Bloody New Year. Bloody New Year was the beginning of us testing out people. Yeah. So that was the first of 2 episodes back to back with Burger. This is when we started doing our who's going to be the next co-host. So we had Burger join us for that and the Guyver. Then Kyle joined
the Guyver? Oh, okay. Yeah, Kyle was on American Gothic. That's right.
American Gothic and the Wraith. And then Ralph, poor Ralph, dude. He got
such shit.
He got Howling 6, The Freaks, and he got The Gate, which is fine. And then Brian,
movie, but not a great episode.
Brian joined us for the
Hard Rock Zombies and X-Ray.
Yeah. I think Burger came back for Carnosaur 2 and Seed People. And then I want to say, I'm trying to remember
who didn't have Brian for Bad Moon. I want to say,
I'm trying to think who Bad Moon and Death Spa was. I'm going to check.
But Death Spa was also a Scott pick. I have picked Killer Workout and Death Spa and Aerobicide, or not Aerobicide. What the fuck was that movie that had the ladies in the jazzercise outfits? That was such a terrible slasher. We'll get to it. It's later. I also picked Killer Party and Demon Wind.
You know what? It was. I think Kyle joined us for Bad Moon and Death Spa because I feel like I remember.
That's right.
Because he made a reference to having. You asked him if he would have a copy of that werewolf book that they owned, and he said only. Yeah. He said only if I found it in an airport.
That's right. Yep.
But then we had Dylan from Monster Mania.
Dylan
joined us for Slaughter High and Killer Party.
He loved Killer Party.
He adored it. But then this is pretty much Bugged
was when
in
you
Demon
came
Wind,
on.
and then Katie joined us for Troll and Chopping Mom.
Oh yeah, fuck you, Katie, for not loving Chopping Mall.
And
God, I
then
fucking love Chopping Mall so
all
much.
three of these, Silver Bullet, Wrong Turn 6, and Dracula 2000, were all Stephen Bay because he
At
was hanging out with us
Mania.
at Mania. Well, I
And
think
I was so sick. If you listen to Wrong Turn 6 in particular, I sound like my nose has been chopped off and cauterized. Man, that was a brutal cold. It wasn't even like con crud or anything like that. I
you were sick
literally
when you
was
showed
sick.
up. Yeah, you showed
Yeah,
up sick.
it was rough.
And then,
but I picked Splashdance strictly due to the fact that I had such a good time watching Death Spa and Killer Workout, and Splashdance is terrible.
So there's a few things here. So Sleepwalkers and Uninvited were when we were officially like Brian is our co-host, but we really, guys, when we say that like Kyle was the fourth co-host, was like if Kyle didn't have so many responsibilities as a director, there was a legitimate point where Scott and I were like, could we do the show with 4 people? Because and we tested it with Sleepwalkers and Uninvited. And it's, I mean,
That's right.
Kyle pops up all the time because we love the dude. Then we did Idle Hands, which was actually picked by our guest. That was when we had Andrew from Five Iron Frenzy. But you did Slash Dance because Glow season 2 came out.
Oh, that's right. Oh, Glow.
And then episode 150.
I have to tell you real quick, right before we get to episode 150, I have to tell you a little story about a dream I had about a week or 10 days ago that I told Megan about when we woke up the next morning. I had a dream that I was hanging out with Betty Gilpin, who is Liberty Bell, and some other characters, and I don't know if they were actually people from Glow, but I knew it was Betty Gilpin. So Betty Gilpin we were at a beach, and Betty Gilpin decides that she's going to go out into the water and pee. And so she goes out into the water, and it's this like euphoric thing for her to pee, but she pees like a rainbow, and the water is actually snow, but it's also sand. And when she pees on the water, snow, sand, it melts it and awakens a dragon. So that's the way my brain works.
All right. Well, then, Jonathan London joined us for the first time for Gremlins 2.
That was such a fun episode because we talked about what Gremlins 3 would be like.
Yeah.
His idea of Gremlins 3.
Which was a blast. And then I feel like the big, like the first couple episodes with Brian, a lot of us picking Brian was like knowing that if you nurtured his funny bone enough that you would get gold out of him.
Funny bone.
Yeah, he was like a little hesitant. Uncle Sam is the episode where Uncle Sam is the episode where I knew that we made the right decision because that's when he does the whole riff. Billy, you're 9 years old.
You know, that fucking asshole made me love Uncle Sam.
Dude, what a bad movie that I will still watch most 4th of Julys.
Yeah.
You picked Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, The Initiation.
Christmas in July.
Good times. And then Hellraiser 3 and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 were both recorded in front of an audience of about 5 people. Yeah, our 3 evening.
Oh, it was 7 people. Come on.
But yeah, it was fun. And then we followed it with another 3, which was Basket Case 3. But I know you've been getting ready to talk about some Kindred memories. So let's dive in.
So I'll keep it short. So the Kindred is still one of my favorite movies that we've discussed, or that I've picked. Love it so much. It's not a great movie. Still waiting for the blue, and I will buy the blue, even though I don't even have a Blu-ray player. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I will buy a Blu-ray player just so I can have Kindred.
Yeah, the day that comes out is the day Scott buys his Blu-ray.
Yeah, exactly. And the funniest thing about the Kindred is that I don't really like re-listen to our stuff too much. There are probably about a dozen episodes that I like. If I really want to go back down memory lane, I know what I'll go for, and Kindred's probably top 5. But the Kindred episode I listened to on the way down to meet my nephew for the first time because he was born last April. So April 2019, and in the middle of a fucking tornado. And I love my brother-in-law, but he's an idiot. He decided that he was going to read reviews online and pick a hospital for them to give birth based on online reviews. And so we picked one that was 50 minutes away instead of the world-class one that is literally in our town. I don't know. My wife and I both think he's an idiot for that. But so on the way down, I'm like, well, I got a ton of time to kill. And so I listened to The Kindred and something else. And so now whenever I think of that episode of The Kindred, I think about driving down and meeting my nephew for the first time.
Oh,
so there we go.
That is sweet. That's very sweet.
It's way too heartwarming for a typical Scott Rogers story.
Yeah. So The Plague, the horror show, and Patchwork were all recorded in your living room before we did an all-night live stream with Brian just barely clasping to life at that
The Plague, really? I thought that we did The Plague. I'm pretty sure we did The Plague over Zen or whatever we were using at the time.
I'll have to double check.
I'm pretty positive that one was not in person because Brian, I don't think Brian could have made it through 3 episodes that day, but it doesn't really matter.
That's probably true. Then we dive into the listener. This is when we officially decided that September was going to be the listener submitted month. And then our first batch of listener submitted month was Tremors, Grave Dancers, Extro, and Demonic Toys, which is a pretty solid lineup, all things considered. Not bad. And Brian, I mean, as we know, fell in love with Extro.
Loves Extro.
Then
and
we dove
my buddy
into
Mario.
October.
Well, we'll get into October in a second, but the thing about Extro is that my buddy Mario, who you've met, and I talk about constantly, he had never seen Extro until about 2 days ago, and he was like, "I loved it." I'm like, "Yeah, it's awesome," but it's just one of those movies that kind of goes under the radar for so many people, including myself. That was my first watch of it.
Yeah, but that good movie. I'm glad that that was one that I had watched, didn't think much about, and then when we did it for the show, I was like, "Man, this movie's really fucking good." Like, Rocktober was a good time with just one glaring issue that we'll just skip right on over.
Rockula. You mean the one where the main character watches his mom get cunnilingus performed on her while her boyfriend is underwater? That one?
Yeah, that's the one. But then we dove into Teen Witch. Like this is to me.
Best day.
This is my this is the beginning of the best. What I think is like some of the best eras of horror movie night, because we had Teen Witch, then we had Chris LaMartina join us for Werewolf of Washington, and then
bad movie, good episode.
Boom. And then
Sick. Oh man, Sick is still one of my top 10 favorite movies that you've shown me. Definitely.
It's so bad, but I feel like people don't understand how truly bad it is until you watch it. It's so fun.
It's an experience.
And then Brian got his House on 1,000 Corpses pick. No,
he did not.
You picked it. You picked it so he would be happy.
Brian picked Scream 3 because we were going to talk to Brett.
Yeah,
right.
Brett, well, no, he picked Scream 3 because on the live stream he was talking about how Scream 3 was better than Scream 2, and we were like, bullshit. And then he picked it and realized his mistake. But then Destroyer, which I think it's not a good movie, but we had fun with Destroyer. Society with Becca and Dave McKendry that joined us. That was without Brian because we had to record it in the middle of the day. I had to work from home that day.
I was working from home that day. Actually, I think I decided to work from home that day strictly because that was the only time that we could make it work with the McKendrys. But amazing.
The masterpiece.
Dubro, all-time favorite. Probably my favorite movie from Horror Movie Night. Straight up.
And Dubro Party Massacre 3, I remember watching it on Thanksgiving. Like literally Thanksgiving morning. I watched it because we were recording it the next day. We recorded that and Batman Returns on Black Friday.
That's right. Yeah.
And then Batman Returns, another top contender, I think, for some of our best Christmas material. And Shrieker. Shrieker's a piece of trash, but I love it. I don't know why, but I love it.
I know you love Shrieker because that's your pick. And then Bill and Ted was the listener pick because our first of the year is always listener pick. Did I pick Bubba Hotep?
You probably did because I definitely picked Smiley.
Yeah, you did. Fuck.
And then I think Brian picked Bad Channel.
No, maybe Brian picked Bubba Hotep because I don't. Doesn't matter. But Cellar Dweller was such a great movie that did not get a good enough episode out of it. I mean, it is what it is. That's the glory and sadness of what we do on this show. But
the movie after that's something that might be coming to Scott in the mail soon.
Yeah, in the next 2 days, guys, watch on the Facebook page because Matt finally is mailing me the VHS copy of Of the Borrower. Super stoked.
Phantom of the Opera was picked by Brian, which was an all right episode.
It was a better episode than a movie.
Yeah, Neon Maniacs. Who joined us?
We had
for
a
that?
guest.
Oh, Mike James from Dude Bro Party Math.
Dude Bro. Yeah.
I was like, we definitely had a guest for that, but I couldn't remember who for a second. Howling 3, which way better sequel.
So good.
Way better than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
Leprechaun 4 almost definitely killed Leprechaun for a franchise that we'll talk about on this podcast. Then you did Ninja 3, The Domination, which was barely a horror movie.
Sorry, guys.
I mean, we had fun. We had fun. It just wasn't a horror movie. But then
I think I said tits in that, and I was really embarrassed. I should have said breasts.
But then Graveyard Shift, which got eliminated way too fucking fast on the Stephen King. But what a movie. I still stand by that movie. I ride for that movie. And then Night of the Comet with J-Tro joining us to promote SP2. And then these were all of the listener submitteds for April. We were doing it back then, April, and
5 of them.
Yeah. And 4 of them were recorded in our hotel room at Monster Mania last year.
And one of them I was stupid drunk, and it's annoying. But it's not bad enough for me to like. Matt edited me in a way that I don't sound so annoying, but like, still embarrassed by Nocturna forever.
So let me go.
I've been drunk on the show.
Through my memory banks, it was Subspecies was with Jackie, Nocturna was Marissa, Cheerleader Camp was with Joshua, Leviathan was just the 3 of us because Kyle forgot to watch it.
That's right.
Do we have someone for Blood Rain? I don't think so.
Can't remember. Doesn't matter.
But then
I know that Kyle was on TCM next year.
He was on TCM. And then Rage Carry 2. This is like now we're entering the stuff that made it into the best of year 5. And Rage Carry 2 has another, probably what I think is like the vibe that I would love to hear more of with Horror Movie Night in the future. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I've started reading the Upright Citizens Brigade improv manual. And the improv manual breaks down like the concept of, if you're going to do improvised comedy, if you're going to do stuff that's coming off the top of your head, the importance of establishing a reality and then slowly integrating the absurdity into that reality. And I explain all that because there's a riff in the Rage Carry 2 that is such like the closest we've ever come to like doing what improv comedy is supposed to be when discussing the concept of a burnt down school right next door to a normal school. And just the way that we just kept layering absurdity upon absurdity upon absurdity in that episode is unreal.
I need to study that. I actually probably need to read that book because Tom said earlier on that listening to the best of just reminded me that Brian does one incredible riff per episode and just is mostly quiet for the rest, which is specifically what Megan, we listened to it together on the ALEXA. I can't say it because it's within earshot. The day it came out, we were cleaning the house, and she was like, "Brian's so funny." I'm like, "Yeah, once an episode."
Yeah. I want him to read that book too. I think he would really get a lot out of it.
I need it because Brian is very naturally funny. You and I am way too fucking serious, and you are the one who keeps the wheels turning, and so neither of us can really be as bombastic and funny naturally, so we need to like work on that. But that's my goal for year 6.
Well, and that's why I'm trying to. I think I said this when I posted it on Instagram, but before the pandemic, I had every intention. Friend of the podcast, he's never been a guest, but we're all friends with him. Mark from the band Danger Club does improv. He does improv classes in Philly, and he was going to help me sign up for a beginner's class. Not that I necessarily want to do improv comedy or that I want to like be an actor, but I want it to like tighten up my writing and tighten up my ability to like think on my feet while doing podcasting. So I figured the next best thing was he was like, well, I'll just lend you the book since we can't go to classes for at least a year. So I've been reading his textbook. But Brian, one of Brian's best picks of all time, Out of the Dark.
Straight up, the best, number 1.
Boneyard, which was arguably one of my best picks.
Just was really fun.
See, that's the thing with me. It's either I knock it out of the park, or it is like the biggest whiff that you've ever seen. There's no middle ground with Matt Kelly picks. Episode 200 with Beetlejuice, Brian finally got to retire the 6 degrees that I think he started to regret about 10 episodes in that he had signed himself up for it.
Well, Brian, that's the thing about Brian is that, like, he regrets everything that requires work. He regrets horror movie. That's why he's not here right now.
House of Wax, which I never realized how mean-spirited that movie was until we rewatched it.
Though. I love it. I picked it. That was my pick. I love it.
I feel like it's a movie that I love retroactively, and and then when I'm watching it,
why it's so mean.
Yeah, but I feel like when I'm watching it, I like it less than when I think about it after the fact.
Yeah.
Curse 3 and Child's Play 2.
Oh, that was a mistake on you and me.
Yeah,
was our mistake.
We pushed Brian. We're like, come on, Brian, it's a great pick for you. But Curse 3 and Child's Play 2 were done live on YouTube. It was a live YouTube stream where we recorded 2 episodes live for a YouTube audience to celebrate 200 episodes.
I don't even fucking remember.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Then we did Hellraiser 4 Bloodline. I mean, not the last Hellraiser we're going to talk about. There's definitely more around the horizon, I think. Killjoy, which is really when we start to get into some problematic
fucking Brian. That's basically when Brian decided that he's never going to pick a good movie.
Island, It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive. See, that's what I mean. Like, it's either a home run or it's a whiff for Matt Kelly.
But then your home run, dude, Last Shark. I'm pretty shocked that Amityville, It's About Time didn't make it into the best of, but it's just because there were so many bangers that you were trying not to.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. There was a point where I had clips for almost every single episode, and I was like, I can't put out like a 2-hour long best of. So I got a little bit more specific, and I wanted to try to include as many episodes with guests as I could. Puppet Master 4, we had I cannot believe I'm blanking on his name. Vincent. Yeah, Vincent
DeSantis.
Yeah, the friendliest Jason you'll ever meet.
Dude,
never hike alone.
Yeah. I think Last Shark was definitely my favorite. Definitely my favorite find of 2000 of year 5.
Oh, for sure.
Like I said at the beginning of the best of, but as I've thought back about it since that best of came out, Last Shark was.
Then we had Cherry Falls, which was fun. The Creep. But then we get into the September listener submitted, starting with Boogeyman 2.
Such a fucking disaster.
Then Pieces, which Kyle joined us.
Yeah.
Do we have a guest for Urban Harvest? We did not.
Remember, but that was such a good watch.
Leatherface.
No, we didn't have an episode.
Yeah,
we did that live. Yeah, that was
live at Creature Feature Weekend.
And then we did the biggest mistake.
Yeah, this was
an anthology October.
Yeah, sorry guys, never again will we do an anthology movie. It's just too fucking hard to talk about 3 to 4 mini movies in a concise manner. But I was glad that we got to talk about Necronomicon. We were joined by I cannot believe I'm blanking on everybody's names. I got to hover over these things. The lethal Cyborg Joe from the Lethal Weapons.
Oh, Cyborg Joe, yeah.
So
poor guy couldn't see the bottom third of the screen.
House That Dripped Blood, picked by Brian. An episode that I'm very proud of. The Tales from the Hood, the emails that we've received from people.
That is so heartening. That kept me going for like 6 months because of the emails that we got about Tales from the Hood. Because like, people of color said that we did a good job, and that's not virtue signaling on my part. That means that we are on the right track and that we have done our work. And work is never done, obviously, as white people and allies. But I
think, you and I will be the first to admit that, like, I know that there are some things in past episodes. It's like, oof, that didn't age well. That humor didn't age well. But like, I think the most important thing. This is going to be a really weird tangent, but like, hear me out on this tangent. And this is not at all like throwing support towards Starbucks. They certainly are an empire, but very infamously, Starbucks told their employees that they couldn't wear anything representing Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. There was a huge uproar, and Starbucks apologized and then like allowed people to do it. And I saw someone post a thing where they were like, oh, whatever, like, you're just apologizing because of the bad press. And my response to that was like, in this day and age where so many people double down on their bad decisions, like I will celebrate anyone at least admitting that they were wrong and trying to do better. And that's the big thing that I feel about with the later years of Horror Movie Night is we're not going to go back and like delete the past episodes. We're going to own that was the things that we said, but we're going to continue to be better human beings every single year. And I think that that's important to show that growth. One of my favorite things is listening to a podcast like Bad Christian, which started off as three dudes from the band Emery who were like talking about how evil pornography was and how like they weren't sure about like how they felt about gay people, to like episode 500, like fighting for gay rights on their show. Like seeing like people naturally grow because they're exposing themselves to different things and like listening to other people and growing as humans is such an impressive and charming thing and shouldn't be shamed at all. So, I mean, that's one of the things I will always be proud of with this podcast, whether we do another 250 episodes or another 500 episodes or just 10 more and then we call it quits. That's not going to happen. But like, the show is always evolving and we as people are always evolving, and that's a good thing to me. Now,
absolutely agreed.
You get off the pedestal for a little bit. Trick or Treat. I mean, great movie. All right episode. May the infamous Brian
fucking didn't watch it.
But yeah, Return to Horror High, our first attempt with Bacon. We got to have Bacon on again. I feel like one of the big things I'm going to try to do. We've been leaning off of guests for a little bit, but I think when it comes time for Listener Submitted Month, that's a great month to just be like, who's some friends of ours that we can like bring back and have fun with these movies that we don't know how good they're going to be because a lot of them we haven't seen. So like we need to bring in that extra manpower. Octoman picked by Brian. And then Blood Rage, the movie that Tom takes credit for, but Scott picked it because it was Thanksgiving time. There's Nothing Out There was one of my picks.
Such a good time.
Psycho 4.
Not such a good time.
I feel like we had fun with it. But then Scott, you gave us the glory that is Jason Lives.
Did I? No, I think you picked Jason Lives because it was on a Friday the 13th.
That's right. There was a little bit of exchanging of picks. Yeah, we did some pick exchanges. Scrooge, which I still stand by. I'm going to ride for that movie. I know you hated it. That's fine. Crybaby, which was, I mean, I love when we get to do non-horror every once in a while. It's just a good time.
Every once in a while. Yeah. It's not really my... And then Bloody Murder 2, Brian coming through with a pile of garbage again.
Return to Swamp Thing. The Fly 2, The Return of Chris Fafios, popping in on there. Null 2, Food of the Gods, Mausoleum. Then our music.
My room.
And then our musical.
I picked Mausoleum because Kyle was super sick in like January or December.
It was September. And then the only reason I remember this was because it was literally, I was in the hotel room waiting for you to show up for Creature Feature weekend, and I gave him a call because we were working out the ideas for our documentary that we're still going to try to shoot, but we'll get there. And Chris, dude, side note, Chris, I love seeing your constant updates in our Facebook page, just letting us know like your progress of listening to the show for the first time. It makes me so excited when you get to certain milestones. So I'm just like, oh man, he's getting close. He's going to be caught up any day now.
I really appreciate what he said about like, he was a little standoffish when he first started listening to us, but he started at the beginning, and he has probably more than most other recent listeners has witnessed our trajectory, which is really, really nice because I think that you and I in particular have done a lot of personal work to get to where we are right now. We will continue to do so, but and like, a lot of work has gone in behind the scenes for us.
Well, and I think I've been using this quote a lot lately, and I genuinely don't know if I made it up myself or if I heard it from somebody else, but it's something that I think about all the time, which is that when people are trying to be a success in life, when their goal is to be successful or famous or whatever, there's really only two motivators, and it's either because they want to be in power or they want to empower. And I feel like you and I have firmly fallen into that category where it's like, we don't care if Horror Movie Night continues to grow into this giant thing, or if, we're just this really modest grassroots podcast. As long as we are continuing to inspire other people to like pursue their dreams, because I feel like each one of us in our small ways have grown in this way where it's like you're doing music for so many other random projects as well as your own that just keep popping up, like doing film festival themes and stuff like that. And like I'm producing podcasts for some of like the people I grew up idolizing, and like
that's pretty wild. It is really wild.
And Brian's out there editing, like doing full-time editing work, just got laid off and was like, I'm going to start my own company. Fuck it. I'm not going to work for anybody ever again. Like, that's wild. That's great. But yeah, so we knocked out all these. There's not a lot to talk about. They're musicals. You've seen them. We had a blast. But then, Psycho Cop returns. I still think it's a fun movie. I think we did a good job.
It was a hard watch for me because I watched it in an unsecure location. It was a lot of
Brian's pick with Pumpkinhead 2, which I ended up walking away from being like, I like that more than I ever liked Pumpkinhead 2 before. Like, it was one of those movies that I rented. Yeah, like I rented it once. I was like, what a piece of shit. And now watching it, I'm like, oh yeah. But then Tammy and the T-Rex, man.
I waited. So, I felt like we were so like we planned that out, and then I felt like it was kind of a deflating thing. Like, it was a great fucking episode, but like by that point it wasn't a hot topic for people. And
it wasn't,
like, but it's so good.
And Tammy and the T-Rex is also the one that I am most disappointed at because of how bad Brian and I's mics were. That episode.
That's why it didn't show up in the best.
Yeah. There's a ton of things that I think are hilarious in Tammy and the T-Rex, but the audio quality was so rocky that I was like, nope. Same with Arachnophobia. There was just some
man, we had so many good riffs in Arachnophobia too. That was a blast to record. I specifically remember how good that episode was to record.
Lord of Illusions, House on Haunted Hill, like these are all just in the last couple months.
Pulsating butthole.
Cherry. Dude, that the Eagle Eye Cherry pulsating butthole cherry riff is like so fucking funny to me. But then so Alligator 2, Kyle joined us, Werewolves on Wheels, Bloodhook, Piranha 2, The Spawning, Strangeland, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then of course Tom's favorite movie, Freaked. And then I think I'm not gonna, to pat ourselves on the back, I think right here is a really good 4-episode run.
Yeah, dude. I'm surprised about how good From Dusk Till Dawn came out, because From Dusk Till Dawn didn't feel like it. That's one of those ones where, and this is also is behind the curtain for people that listen, that like sometimes Matt makes lemonade out of shit, where it's like, he cuts it and he makes it a lot tighter than it was. I feel like From Dusk Till Dawn was a real back and forth, not very funny episode for us to record. But when that episode came out, one of my friends, actually Mikey, the guy that was in Ichabod Crane with me, like the other guitar player, messaged me, and he was texting me, and he doesn't listen regularly. He listens to episodes of movies he's seen and likes, and he loves From Dusk Till Dawn. It's like apparently probably top 20 for him. Don't worry. And he's like, I can't believe you didn't talk about the cock gun. And I'm like, we did. It just got, taken out. The extended discussion was kind of, shortened. And
that's the thing. I'll look at, and
it makes it better. It makes it sound better.
Yeah, I've gotten really vicious with the editing, and that's with all the shows. I'll message with like my favorite episodes. Sometimes I'll message Julie and Kathleen because they'll be like, "Man, I feel like we just rambled." I think it was like when they did their recap of Dead to Me season 2. They were like, we were all over the place. That thing had to be a mess. And I'll like text them because I usually edit their show on Monday nights. So I'll text them at like Monday night at like 6 p.m. and I'll say, okay, just imported the audio. We had an hour and 10 minutes. And then I'll message them like 2-3 hours later and I'll be like, I got it down to 40. Like just.
But that's the thing is that you have to condense it, because I know for myself, I don't listen to anything that's more than 40 minutes long on a podcast app. I don't give a shit. Even Ira Glass can't keep me from, turning off at the 45-minute mark.
And I think that each one of us, like we've definitely grown as podcasters, but there's definitely things that we all have bad habits with. I just randomly will tell tangents that have no point. Like you'll get like real hype about something, and then it's just like the Scott show for 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay, let's get to the key.
I'm so
no,
sorry.
It's fun. I'm just like, let's get to the key moments of what Scott's trying to get to with this. But I'll tell you what, when I edit Best of Year 6, I must have listened to the Jaws 3D episode like 3 times. I don't know why I found that episode so funny, but there's so many moments where like Brian calls me out on getting information wrong like multiple times. Us just talking about like all of the technical issues with the movie. Like it is a really funny episode. And then I find the Planet of the Vampires episode so charming for how we are just struggling. We're just trying so hard to get content out of this episode, and like none of us have anything to add. And it's so funny to me how like we're just like, I don't know what to say.
And Brian's like, wait, let's circle back. We haven't gotten our 20 minutes yet.
Dude, I think my favorite line in the history of Horror Movie Night is, listen, I know that we have a problem, but it's our problem and we have to deal with it. Like,
it's such a Brian thing to say because he won't own up to anything of his own. Fucking Brian. Love him.
But yeah, man. that is the 5 years. We went through all of it in an hour and 15, which is pretty impressive, honestly. It's not including all the bonus material, all the interviews, all the crazy stuff. But guys, these live streams, like, there will be a point where we do these again. You know what I mean? Like, there'll be a point where it's like, hey, there's a holiday coming up. Everybody's just like trapped in their houses still. Like, I don't want to put this juju out in the world.
It's gonna be Halloween, dude.
But God forbid, but God forbid if like we can't do the Halloween that we want to have. That's my promise. You're gonna see this live stream pop up in the month of October. We'll do a couple like weekly episodes leading up to like the weekend of Halloween, we'll do some live
Halloween.
stream. Yeah, like
if I don't get to dress up and go out, which I'm assuming I'm not going to do,
and that's what it might have to be. We might have to find a way to like import movies in here and do Halloween party. Like it's the 3 of us in costumes, but then like for each movie we bring in a different like regular rotating guest to join us to talk about that movie or we'll do something huge for Halloween. So, but this is you can your Tuesday nights are free. Your Tuesday nights are free.
No. Our Tuesday nights are free.
I mean, if you're looking for something to do on your Tuesday night is when I drop episodes of my favorite episode of, which I produce. This week we did a recap of The Politician season 2. It's a delightful show starring Ben Platt, who you may know as the original Evan Hansen on Dear Evan Hansen. He has a beautiful, sultry voice. He's my favorite singer on Broadway, and he's actually a pretty funny actor too. Tomorrow on the One Hit Thunder podcast, I believe we're doing The Freshman by the Verve Pipe as our episode.
How has it been that long that you haven't done The Freshman?
I mean, the guests pick the songs, Scott. The guests pick the songs.
Wait. Has the one with Jen from Bomb Pops?
Not yet. That will be maybe in like a week or two. Right now I'm editing. Right now I'm editing our 8675309 episode with Krista Makes from Less Than Jake.
Who's also got a new podcast called Krista Makes a Podcast.
Krista Makes a Podcast, which is a blast. If you haven't listened to the episode with the drummer of the Descendants, absolutely have a box of tissues by your side. It is one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking episodes of a podcast I've ever heard. Scott, you would. I might tell you to skip it. I think that it'll hit a lot of. It's going to hit a lot of stuff that I don't think you would want to dive into. But then Thursday, it's a Scott pick, and most of you figured out by my very subtle.
Oh yeah, Deep fucking Rising, dude. And let's just say that one of the main actors in Deep Rising is coming back on Horror Movie Night. He's gonna make another. They're gonna make another appearance very early in 2021. I sent Matt and Brian a screenshot of my Trello list because I know for a fact what I'm gonna be doing. Probably, I don't know if it's gonna be November or if it's gonna be January when I start on it, but let's just say after we get past October, my picks are gonna be fucking lit.
Yeah, this is some good shit. And then you know what? Fuck it. We're not going to be back on here for a bit. I'll tell you this one because I really like how the episode turned out. We tackled Child's Play 3, and we did I gotta say, we had a fun time with Child's Play 3.
I'm
we
excited
do
to
really
hear
well
that
with
one.
parts. We do great with part 3s of franchises.
As long as we don't do them live, you know.
Yeah, if they're live, it's trash. But all right, guys, we're gonna sign off. I know that I'm just barely hanging on.
Beforehand, I want you to real quick. I want you to name off all of your podcasts, and I want to say one quick thing as well.
Cool. My favorite episode of One Hit Thunder, Horror Movie Night. If you want to check out the back catalogs of a canceled show, which was Disneydos, that's still all up there and live. And the fate of Roaring Twenties is still up in the air. Probably not until this pandemic is over.
Be more like the Roaring 2021s, bro.
Yeah, for God, man, we were optimistic.
Yeah.
All right, Scott.
Yeah, and I want to say one thing. Beyond what I'm going to be posting the Google Doc on the page tonight, on the group tonight. If you didn't see, I'm making some wear a mask shirts. There's a Jason one, a Freddy one, a Jason one, a Michael one, and then a Leatherface one. And I'm going to put a pre-order up because I found a printer for them, and I would love to know what people want before I put it in an order. So I'm going to put up an Etsy link for everybody to make pre-orders. Hopefully we get enough so that it's easy for me to just straight away not have to wait more than 5 days to get them started. But yeah, I'm really excited because I want one. So that's the plan.
And we'll talk more off the air.
They're gonna be glow in the dark, by the way.
But I definitely think those are going to be cool. I definitely think that if you want them, you should probably act soon because they're probably going to be limited edition because I feel like circa 2021, 2022, don't know if the joke and message is going to hit as strongly. So,
you know, I think that 2021 is still going to hit, and that's what's depressing. But, hey, I'm just a capitalist, man. I'm just, I'm just trying to make money off of the pandemic. No, I'm actually just trying to get a cool shirt for myself, and if other people can enjoy the joke.
That's what the Nick Cage shirt was for me, man. I was like, I just want this shirt. And maybe
it's our best seller of all time, dude. Cannot believe we sell like
at least 2 a week.
Those. Yeah. I mean, per month, I bet we're burning through like 10 a month, 20, 15 a month, which is insane for people who do not sell shirts. They're literally just for us to have these shirts.
Well, and that's the thing that I mean, we're rambling, but that's fine. We just like talking to each other. It's been a while since we recorded.
And it's been like 3 weeks since we've recorded, and I am blue balled.
I'm excited for Sunday. We're recording again for the first time in a bit on Sunday. But that's the thing that sucks is like I'm glad that the things are selling as well as they are on Etsy. I think putting our shirts on Etsy was like a very good decision for us. But like it sucks because a lot of the shirts that we made, I feel like when it hits, like when we get to go back to conventions, when like it's safe for us to do conventions, there's some designs that I think aren't stuff that people are searching for on Etsy, but if they walk past a booth and see it up on a display, they're going to want it. So like, I'm excited to put those into the world and see how they do as well. But we'll see. I mean, look, fingers crossed. All I'm doing every week is, or basically every day, is just Googling vaccine update. It's like all of them. Every morning I Google it and I'm like, give me the debrief on what happened while I was sleeping with vaccine news.
Hey, buddy, I hate to break it to you, but I don't think that's healthy because I am not watching that and I am just as paranoid as you.
There's 5 in phase 3 and there's 1 that's been approved by the Chinese government, but only for their military, which seems really fucked up because that seems like it's like well, if they die, like, but
It's China.
it's kind of where I'm like, oh dear God, that is more terrifying than not having a vaccine. Is like, well, we're just going to give it to only the military and see how that plays out.
Have you ever heard of the term can fodder, Matt?
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, just keep it optimistic. Keep it optimistic, man. When the second, I'm not sure if you saw the tweet that I made, and it's one of the most, well, no, because not on Twitter. I was gonna say you're not on Twitter. It's one of the most depressing things I've ever posted on Twitter. But I said it's weird. Every movie I've ever watched where anything like what we're going through was happening depicts this moment where the fight has been won and the world cheers. And I feel like when there's a vaccine, I won't even have the energy to do anything more than shrug and just hope for the best. And that's kind of where I'm.
That's fucking dark. Is that how we're ending this week?
Yeah. Hey, man, just stay strong out there, guys. I feel like I needed this. I had a really rough day today at work.
You did.
I think we just, in general, I can't speak for Scott, but I know, like, for me, I'm at a point where it's like, I feel like any decision that I want to make is completely out of my hands right now. Like, I want to start dating. That's not doable in a pandemic. I'd like to move out soon. Moving is not exactly easy during a pandemic. I want to look for a new job. Looking for a new job is not easy during a pandemic. Like, it's just like, I feel like I'm just kind of trapped. And the analogy that I gave my friend today was, I was like, I'm just pretending that we're living in a TV show where they got rid of the head writer and the season's awful. And that eventually we're going to get to the next season where they rehired that head writer and he tries to make things right again. Like, that's my mentality, is like, okay, this is the bad season of your favorite TV show. And, but then, like, you're like, hey, it's an improvement. It's an improvement. It's like, this will be like, right now we're in American Horror Story Hotel, but like next year we can be Roanoke. And like, I really liked Roanoke. So like, fingers crossed. Do you know that I binged all 8 seasons of American Horror Story this week?
I had a feeling that was why it was on your mind.
Yeah, I haven't seen the slasher one, but I'm told it's terrible. So I'll watch that whenever it's on Netflix, I guess. But all right, bye, Scott. Bye, guys. Love you all. Stay strong. We're still going to be posting all the time in the Facebook page and all that other stuff. Yeah. Love ya!